My name is Gracie Hale. I am 26 years old. 3 years ago, my father looked me in the eyes and told me that girls like me never make it. He said my diploma was a joke. He said no real company would ever hire me, and for a long time he was right. 92 applications, 12 interviews, 0 offers. Every door opened just enough for me to believe my life was finally about to begin. Then every door slammed shut, not quietly, not politely, brutally. Recruiters smiled at me on Monday and treated me like a criminal by Friday. Hiring managers looked at my resume like it disgusted them. Some called me dishonest, some called me fake. One man actually asked me if I enjoyed wasting professional time. I kept telling myself it was the market. Bad timing, bad luck. Maybe I was nervous in interviews. Maybe I was not polished enough. Maybe my father had been right all along. Then came the last interview, the one that should never have happened, the one that changed everything. The CEO stared at my diploma, then at his computer. Then back at me. His face went white. He said, "Your degree is real, completely real." Then he leaned forward and asked a question that made my blood run cold. "So why has someone spent the last 2 years trying to convince half this industry that you do not exist?" That was the moment the lie cracked. That was the moment the trap my family built around me finally started to break. And that was the moment I realized this was never just rejection. It was sabotage. Before I take you back to the beginning, I need one favor from you. If this story hits you even a little, then press like right now. Subscribe if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard all the way through. And leave a comment telling me where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. I read those comments when the nights get heavy. They remind me that truth still reaches people. They remind me I was never as alone as they wanted me to feel. Now let me take you back to the beginning, back before the interviews, before the debt, before I knew what my family had done, back to the dinner table where it all started. Every Sunday at 6 o'clock, my parents hosted dinner at their house in Naperville, Illinois. The kind of house people slow down to admire. White siding, black shutters, perfect lawn, perfect windows. The kind of place that looks like stability from the outside and feels like a courtroom once you step inside. The dining room was always immaculate. Crystal glasses, cloth napkins. Candles that my mother lit even when no one cared. The pot roast always smelled incredible. The silverware was polished, the plates matched. Everything in that room said order, control, presentation. And across from me sat Tyler. My brother was 4 years older than me and light years more important in that house. Tyler Hale, MBA from Wharton, investment analyst in Chicago, expensive watch. Expensive car, expensive smile. He moved through life with the kind of confidence people get when they have never once had to doubt whether they would be chosen. My mother looked at him like he was proof she had done everything right. My father looked at him like he was legacy. Then they looked at me, and the room changed. "Tyler, honey, how is the new position?" my mother would ask. "Great, Mom. Closed another major deal. That is my boy," my father would say. Then his eyes would shift to me. "Any luck this week, Gracie?" Luck. As if I had not worked every hour of my life for the chance to sit at the same table as them and be treated like I belonged there. I would answer carefully, "I have an interview Tuesday." He would cut his meat and say, "Do not get your hopes up." Tyler would smirk, "Not everyone can handle corporate life, sis." I wanted to throw my glass at the wall. I wanted to scream that I had graduated with honors, that I had worked myself sick for my degree, that I had done it without anyone helping me, that I had done everything they claimed mattered. But in that house, defending yourself was the fastest way to lose, so I learned silence. That dinner was October 2022, 5 months after graduation. 22 applications sent, 3 phone screens. 1 in-person interview, no offer. By then I had already started to hear a new phrase from recruiters. Something came up in verification. They never explained it. They never gave me details. They just disappeared. At the time, I still thought I was dealing with normal rejection. I still thought effort would solve it. I still thought if I just became sharper and cleaner and more prepared, then eventually somebody would say yes. I did not know my father was making sure they never would. When dinner ended, I drove back to my apartment in Gary, Indiana, 45 minutes from my parents' house and an entire class system away from my brother's downtown condo. My place was small and tired and cold in winter. The windows leaked air. The carpet was older than I was. The heat worked only when it felt like it, but it was mine. I sat at my kitchen table that night and opened my laptop. On the screen was a spreadsheet called Job Search Master Tracker. 22 rows, 22 companies, 22 versions of no. I started reading through the notes I had made after each interview. Strong conversation, great rapport, asked for availability, mentioned next steps, requested background verification, then silence. Or rejection. That pattern should have told me everything. Instead, it only confused me. Because the interviews were going well, I knew they were. I prepared for days before each one. I researched the companies, I rehearsed answers until my throat hurt. I learned about their clients, their mission, their leadership, their recent filings, their growth plans. I came in ready. I spoke clearly, I asked strong questions, I followed up professionally, and I was getting interest. Then the background check happened, and I disappeared. That week I updated my LinkedIn, changed my profile photo, rewrote my summary, applied to 5 more companies. I told myself the next one would be different. People ask me now why I kept going. Why I did not stop after 10 rejections, or 20, or 50. The answer is simple, because that diploma meant everything to me. I got my University of Michigan acceptance letter in April 2018. 80% merit scholarship, $48,000 covered. I remember holding the letter in my hands and shaking so hard I could barely read it. I had done it. I was leaving. I was getting out. My father looked at the letter and said, "Do not get too excited. They probably just needed to fill a quota." That same week Tyler got into Wharton. My parents bought champagne. They invited family friends over. They posted photos online about their brilliant son and his extraordinary future. Nobody asked where I wanted to celebrate. Nobody asked how I had earned the scholarship. Nobody said they were proud of me. That was the week I stopped expecting approval from them. I worked 2 jobs through college. Library assistant on weekdays, coffee shop barista on weekends. I took the cheapest housing I could find, shared everything, counted every dollar. I skipped trips, skipped football games, skipped dinners out. I bought used textbooks and off-brand groceries and one winter coat that was never warm enough. I did not live like a student. I lived like someone trying to outrun a cliff. Every semester I kept a notebook with numbers. Tuition, books, rent, food, transportation, emergency money. If I was lucky, I had a $300 cushion. Most months I had less. Still, I made it. I graduated in May 2022 with a 3.72 GPA. Honors, accounting major, finance minor, no loans, no debt, no family support, nothing but scholarship money and thousands of hours of work. On graduation day, I walked across that stage and cried from relief more than joy. I had made it to the other side of something brutal. I looked for my parents in the crowd. They were late. They arrived after the ceremony was over. Traffic, my mother said. Congratulations, my mother said while checking her phone. Where are we eating? Somewhere cheap, my father said. Graduation is the easy part. Now you have to prove you matter. Tyler did not come at all. He texted busy. Congrats, I guess. That night I framed my diploma and hung it above my desk in my apartment. It was the first thing I saw every morning. It reminded me that whatever else happened, no one could take those years from me. I was wrong. Summer 2022 was supposed to be the beginning. I applied everywhere. Big firms, mid-sized firms, analyst roles, entry-level accounting positions, corporate finance teams, audit support, anything that would get me in the door. The first recruiter I spoke to sounded excited. Strong GPA, impressive work ethic, great fit. A background check was requested. A week later, I was rejected. The second company did the same. Then the third, then the fourth. By August, I started applying below my level. Smaller firms, companies I had never heard of, jobs I would have ignored a year earlier. I told myself experience mattered more than prestige. Just get in somewhere, just start. Then one HR director emailed me. She asked if I could confirm that my University of Michigan degree was legitimate because conflicting information had come up during verification. I read that sentence over and over. Conflicting information. I sent them a scan of my diploma, my transcript, my student ID, everything. They never responded. That October, I called the university registrar. I asked them to confirm my degree was on file. It was perfectly valid, perfectly clean, no issue at all. Then I asked if anyone had been checking it. There was a pause. The registrar said yes. Several times, 8 verification requests between June and September. 8. That was the first moment I felt fear instead of confusion, because verification requests made sense. Anonymous tips did not. The registrar hesitated again and then told me something I will never forget. One company had mentioned they received a tip that my diploma might be forged. A tip. Someone had warned them about me. Someone had done it before I ever got there to defend myself. I remember sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot after that call. The engine off. The summer heat trapped in the seats. My hands shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice. That was when the thought first entered my mind. Someone wants me to fail. But I did not yet know how far it went. That Sunday, I went to family dinner anyway. Part of me still hoped that if I said it out loud, maybe someone would help. Maybe someone would be alarmed. Maybe someone would tell me I was not crazy. Instead, my father shrugged. That is the market, he said. Tyler smiled without warmth. Not everyone can handle the pressure, sis. My mother squeezed my hand and told me maybe I should lower my expectations. Not everyone is meant for those careers, dear. The way she said it was almost tender. That made it worse. I left early and cried in the driveway with the car still in park. Because the cruelty that hurts the most is the kind dressed as concern. By December, I had a spreadsheet tracking not just the applications but the pattern. Every interview, every background check, every rejection, every silence. The numbers were clear. Before verification, I had a chance. After verification, I had none. I contacted companies directly. Most ignored me. 2 answered off the record. Both said the same thing. Someone had contacted them and claimed my credentials were fake. Someone said the university had flagged me. Someone sounded specific enough that they believed it. I asked for copies. They were gone. Deleted, unavailable, private. At that point, I still did not know who was doing it. But I knew 2 things. First, it was not random. Second, it was personal. Because whoever it was knew where I had applied. And that meant they knew me. In February 2023, I pushed the registrar harder. I asked for a full review of my file and a formal letter. They sent one. My degree was 100% authentic. But in the prior year, they had received an unprecedented number of verification requests tied to my name. 18 in total. Many involving claims of fraudulent credentials. If I believed I was being targeted, I should seek legal counsel. Legal counsel. I could barely afford groceries. By June, I was broke. 10 months unemployed. Savings gone. I started driving for delivery apps, doing odd jobs. Carrying other people's food to other people's clean apartments while wondering how my life had collapsed so fast after I did everything right. Then my father called. He said he wanted to help. For one stupid second, I felt relief. He offered me a job at his consulting firm, $38,000 a year, an assistant role. I would report directly to him. He would supervise everything. He would help me rebuild. It sounded generous if you ignored the details. If I took it, I would move home. I would depend on him. I would work under him. I would never leave his shadow again. So I said no. His voice went hard instantly. Fine. When you hit rock bottom, do not come crying to me. He hung up. The next month, I got an eviction warning. I sold furniture to cover rent. I started applying to retail jobs just to survive. One night, I sat on the floor holding my diploma in both hands and whispering 4 years. 4 years. 4 years. It felt like grief. Not grief for a person, grief for the life I thought was waiting for me. That was when I made a promise to myself. One last push, one more round. If it failed, I would leave and start over under another name somewhere no one knew me. So I tested something. I submitted applications under G. Hale instead of Gracie Hale. I changed the layout of my resume, moved my degree lower, minimized anything identifiable. I got 3 interviews fast, all 3 ran checks, all 3 rejected me. That was when the truth became unavoidable. The problem was not my degree. The problem was me. Someone had poisoned my name. Late 2023 bled into early 2024, and I started disappearing from my own life. I deleted LinkedIn. I stopped answering college friends. I could not bear to see their office photos and promotion announcements while I was delivering takeout in a 12-year-old car with a cracked windshield. Family dinner got worse. My father started demanding I attend. If I said I was busy, he reminded me I was unemployed and therefore not busy. Tyler talked about bonuses, Aspen trips, new watches, new cars, new investments. I sat there shrinking. In January 2024, I had my first panic attack in a grocery store because I could not afford eggs. A cashier asked if I was okay, and I ran out to my car and sobbed into the steering wheel. That was the moment I believed I had become exactly what my father said I was, a failure. Then April came. And with it a letter that cracked open the part of this story no one could have guessed. It came by certified mail, debt collection notice, balance due. $385,622.18 in student loan debt. I read it once, then again, then a third time. I had never taken a student loan in my life. I went online and pulled my credit report. Score, 510, 8 delinquent accounts, 8 student loans, all in my name, all opened between 2016 and 2020. The first one when I was 16 years old. I stared at the screen and felt the room tilt, because suddenly the job sabotage made a horrible kind of sense. Every time a company ran my background, they did not just see anonymous tips. They saw debt, default, fraud, instability. Someone had not just sabotaged my reputation. Someone had built a financial crime scene in my name. I clicked into the first account. Disbursement address, Philadelphia. I had never lived in Philadelphia. Then I searched the address. Luxury apartment near the University of Pennsylvania, near Wharton, where Tyler had lived. That was the first real crack in the image of my family, not just suspicion, not just pain, evidence. I called the loan company. They emailed me the application. I opened the PDF and saw my name, my social security number, my birth date, and at the bottom a signature, my signature, except not mine. Close enough to fool a stranger, wrong enough to stop my heart. The loop on the G was off. The angle was wrong. The pressure looked forced. Somebody had practiced writing my name. I requested all 8 applications. The next day I spread them across my kitchen table. Every one of them was forged. Every one. The addresses traced back to Tyler. Then I did something that made the room go quiet in my head. I pulled up Tyler's social media history. A new laptop days after one deposit. European vacation after another. Luxury furniture after another. BMW after another. The spending lined up with the disbursements like a confession hidden in plain sight. That should have been enough, but I needed more. So I spent money I did not have on a skip tracer. When the report came back, I stared at it so long my eyes blurred. The bank accounts receiving the loan money belonged to Tyler. And on some of them there was a co-signer. Richard Hale, my father. That was the moment this stopped being a theory. My brother received the money. My father had access to the accounts. My father knew. I laid everything on the floor. Applications, credit reports, account records, screenshots, dates, addresses, amounts. My whole life looked like evidence. And still one part of me wanted to believe there had to be some misunderstanding. That part of me is hard to forgive, because even with that much proof, I still wanted my family to choose truth. So I made the worst decision I could have made. I confronted them. August 3rd, 2024. I asked for a family dinner. I said it was important. I brought a folder with every piece of evidence I had. 89 pages. I put the documents on the table. My father looked annoyed before I even spoke. Tyler looked amused. My mother looked worried in the way people do when they already know where a conversation is going but hope kindness can still blur it. I told them what I found. The credit report. The debt. The loans, the forged signatures, the bank accounts, the addresses, silence. Then my mother asked if I was feeling okay, not shocked, not outraged, not confused, concerned. As if the disturbing thing was not the evidence, as if the disturbing thing was me bringing it up. I said I had proof. Tyler denied everything. My father never even looked at the papers. He looked at me, calm, cold, clinical. He said accusing family of fraud was a serious sign that I might need help. He asked if I had talked to a therapist. Then he said something I will never forget. "You are an unemployed girl with a degree no one will verify." I said I was filing a police report. That was when his mask slipped. Not fully, just enough. He stood up and told me I had destroyed any chance at a normal life, that he had been trying to protect me, that I did not understand the world. I said he had been sabotaging me. He smiled. And he said, "Prove it." Then he leaned in and gave me the first honest thing he had said in years. He told me if I dropped it and worked for him, then maybe I could rebuild quietly. Or else he would make sure I never worked in accounting again. Then he said 6 words that split my life in two. I already made those calls. For a second no one moved. Because now it was no longer just my fear. It was spoken. It was real. My father had been calling companies and destroying my future himself. I grabbed my folder and walked out before I broke in front of them. In the car, I sat with the engine off and the windows fogging from my breathing and thought this is over. Not the fight. The illusion. I no longer had a family to save, only myself. And right when I thought I had reached the bottom, my phone buzzed. Interview request. A company I barely remembered applying to. Garrett Financial Verification. The position, background verification analyst. A company that specialized in credential fraud and identity theft. The irony was almost cruel. The CEO wanted to meet me directly. He asked me to bring every piece of documentation I had, including my diploma and transcripts. I almost deleted it. Part of me thought my father had gotten there too. Part of me thought it was another setup. Part of me could not survive another rejection, but I had nothing left, so I said yes. The months before that interview felt endless. I survived on gig work, borrowed money, fell behind again, avoided mirrors, avoided people, avoided hope. By New Year's Eve, I wrote in my journal that I was 25 years old and professionally dead. Then, February 18th, 2025 arrived. Interview number 92. I woke up before dawn because I had not really slept. I put on the same navy blazer I had worn to almost every major interview. Pressed, faded, thin at the elbows. It felt less like clothing and more like armor I no longer trusted. I drove into Chicago with my diploma in a leather case and my evidence folder on the passenger seat. 312 pages by then. When I got to the office, the receptionist told me the CEO was expecting me and that he wanted all my documentation. All of it. That should have scared me. Instead, it felt like the first sign someone might actually listen. Philip Garrett's office looked exactly like what you would imagine for a man who had spent decades investigating fraud. Certificates. Awards, federal credentials, everything sharp and orderly and impossible to bluff your way through. He stood when I walked in. Gray hair, hard eyes, calm voice. He did not waste time. He told me he knew I had applied to more than 90 jobs in under 3 years. He knew I had almost no offers. He knew the pattern was abnormal. Then he asked one question. Why? I looked at him and said because someone is sabotaging me. I braced for the look I had come to expect. Skepticism, pity, polite doubt. Instead he nodded. Then he said, "I believe you." To this day, I still do not know how to explain what those 3 words did to me. I had been drowning so long I forgot what air felt like. For the next 90 minutes he took apart my entire story piece by piece. He examined my diploma, called the university on speaker, verified everything. My degree was real, honors, good standing. No flags. Then he turned his monitor toward me and showed me my credit file. He already had it. He pointed to the first loan date and asked how old I was. 16. He said private student loans cannot legally be opened by a 16-year-old on her own. Then he asked for samples of my real signature. He scanned them, overlaid them against the forged applications. Zoomed in on the slants, the loops, the pressure points. He said what I had been saying for months. These are not your signatures. Then he asked who had access to my social security number. My parents, my brother, tell me about them, so I did. I told him everything. Tyler, the spending, the dinner table, the job offer from my father, the threat, the confession, the emails, the calls. The years, he listened without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled up another database. In the last 32 months, his firm had received verification requests connected to my name from dozens of companies. He kept records, including IP addresses. He showed me the list. 48 requests tied to the same IP. Then he mapped it. The red pin landed on an address in Naperville, Illinois. Richard Hale Consulting, LLC, my father's office. For a moment the room went completely silent, because there it was, not suspicion, not family tension, not interpretation, a digital trail, a map. A point in space tying my father to the destruction of my career. Philip looked at me and said, "Your father has been running a smear campaign against you from his office." Then he said words I never expected to hear. "We can prove it." I asked him what I should do. He leaned back and thought for a second. Then he offered me 3 things: a job, legal support, and a stage. He was speaking at the National Accounting and Finance Professional Summit in Chicago in 4 weeks. 800 people, industry leaders, media, investigators. He wanted me beside him. He wanted to present my case publicly as a warning about family financial fraud. I just stared at him. Because part of me still could not fathom a world where the truth was stronger than my father's reach. Philip said, "Your family destroyed your life in private. We are going to bring the facts into the light." Then he extended his hand and asked if I was ready. I thought about every rejection email, every gaslit dinner, every unpaid bill. Every night I sat in my car because I did not want to go inside and face my life. And I said yes. If you are still with me right here, press like now, not later, right now. Because this is where the story stops being about survival and starts becoming a reckoning. Subscribe if you want the part of the story families like mine count on people never hearing. And comment the word truth if you have ever had to fight for reality while the people around you kept trying to rewrite it. The next 4 weeks were the longest of my life. I started working at Garrett Financial the very next day. My own desk, my own badge, my own paycheck. It felt unreal to walk into an office and not be treated like a liar. But while I was learning, the job Philip's team was building my case. Week 1, they subpoenaed loan servicers and bank records. The money trail came back clean in the worst possible way. Each loan had landed in Tyler's accounts. Each disbursement was followed by withdrawals. Those withdrawals lined up with luxury purchases and travel and spending he had shown off publicly for years. Not 1 time, 8 times. Week 2, they analyzed the anonymous tip emails sent to employers. 52 of them. Same IP block, same business hour pattern, same software profile, same source. My father's office, his consulting firm, he had not just made a few worried calls. He had waged a campaign. Week 3, they subpoenaed his business phone records. 63 calls to companies I had applied to. Dates that matched my interview timeline. Durations long enough to do damage. Still no direct recording of those calls. But we had something better now. Pattern, scale, intent. Then Philip brought in a forensic document examiner with federal experience. She compared every real signature I had ever produced against the signatures on the loan applications. Her conclusion was simple: 99.7% certainty. Forgery. By then I thought I had seen the worst of it. I had not. Because in the middle of that review, Philip found something I never expected. One of the applications included my mother's signature as co-signer, except that signature looked forged too. That stopped me cold. For the first time, I wondered if my mother had known less than I thought about the loans themselves. Not about the sabotage, not about the cruelty, but maybe about the original theft. That possibility did not comfort me. It made everything darker. Because if my father had been willing to forge his daughter's name to fund his son's life, and maybe even forge his wife's name, too, then what exactly had been real in that house? Nothing felt solid anymore. By March 10th, the case was nearly complete. Fraud, identity theft, wire activity, loan records, IP tracing, signature analysis, employer contacts, Tyler's benefit. Richard's access. A full system of abuse dressed up for years as family hierarchy. Then Philip told me something that made my stomach turn. He had invited federal investigators to the summit. And my family, I asked him why. He said justice means nothing if the truth stays hidden. 4 days before the summit, my father started calling. First calm, then angry, then threatening. He showed up at my office lobby and demanded to speak to me alone. Philip met him instead. My father tried on the voice he used in public. Concerned, reasonable, paternal. He said this was family business. Philip told him it was federal fraud business. My father looked at me and said I was being manipulated. He said he loved me. He said he had only ever tried to protect me. Protect me. That word still makes my skin crawl because abusers love words that sound noble. Protection, guidance, concern, sacrifice. They use beautiful words to hide ugly control. The next day, his lawyer sent a cease and desist letter threatening defamation claims. Philip laughed. Truth is a defense. The day after that, my mother came to my apartment and cried in my doorway. She said my father made mistakes but loved me. She said Tyler loved me. She begged me not to do this to the family. Do this to the family. That was the phrase. Not what did he do to you, not how can I help, do not do this to us. That was when I realized some people will watch you drown as long as the water stays off their side of the boat. Then Tyler found me in a parking lot. He said I was going to destroy everything. I asked him where he thought $385,000 came from. He said he thought our father had handled it. Handled it. As if money just appears in huge clean waves and lands in your account, and you never ask why. As if ignorance is innocence. As if benefiting from theft becomes harmless if you never say the quiet part out loud. That night my father called one last time and offered me $50,000 to walk away. A check. A fresh start. Silence. When I refused, he said the line that had haunted me from the day I graduated. Girls like you will never make it. But this time something in me had changed. Because when he said it that night, it no longer sounded like prophecy. It sounded like fear. March 15th, 2025. The summit. I woke before sunrise and put on a new suit bought with my first real paycheck. Navy blue, structured shoulders, clean lines. It felt like wearing evidence that I had survived long enough to become visible again. Philip picked me up. On the drive there, he told me to stick to facts. Let the proof speak. Stay calm if they reacted. I asked what if no one believes me. He said the evidence does not need belief. It needs witnesses. The ballroom was huge. 800 seats. Screens, cameras. Press tables, industry leaders, people with influence, people my father would have spent years trying to impress. And there in the third row sat my family, my father in a perfect suit. My mother pale and tight with dread. Tyler angry before it even began. They had come thinking they could still manage the story. That was their last mistake. Backstage, Philip pointed out the investigators in the front row. Federal faces, legal faces, serious faces. Then the introduction began. We walked onto that stage under lights so bright I could barely see the crowd. Philip opened with my degree on the screen behind us and the timeline of my job search in giant numbers. 92 applications, 12 interviews, 0 offers. Then he said the room was about to hear a true story of how an honors graduate had been made unemployable not by incompetence, but by her own family. The room went still. I stepped up and told them I was 16 when the first student loan was opened in my name. Philip walked them through the applications, the dates, my age at the time, the legal impossibility. The signature comparisons, then the screen changed to bank records, and then to Tyler's account, and then to the purchases, one by one, slowly, methodically, no shouting, no drama. Just fact after fact stacking higher and higher, until the weight of it was unbearable. When the anonymous tip emails appeared on the screen, you could feel the mood in the room shift from shock to disgust. Then Philip showed the IP traces, my father's office. And for the first time that morning, my father stood up. He called it defamation. Philip told him to sit down. He refused. So I stepped forward and said, "We also have a recording of you admitting you made those calls." Then I pressed play. His own voice filled the ballroom. "You will never work in accounting again." I already made those calls. No one breathed. Then the federal agent in the front row stood and walked toward him. My father went pale. He tried to posture, tried to protest, tried to act above it. It did not work. They escorted him out in front of 800 witnesses and a room full of cameras. Tyler was next, not arrested that second but warned not to leave the state. My mother cried and tried to reach me. I told her her apology could not restore the years I lost. Then I turned back to the audience and did the hardest thing I have ever done. I stopped speaking as a daughter and started speaking as a witness. I told them family financial fraud is real. That children and young adults have their identities stolen by the very people who are supposed to protect them. That shame keeps victims quiet. That silence is where people like my father build power. And then I gave the audience something my family had never given me. Clarity, check your credit, protect your records. Trust evidence over blood when blood is harming you. If your family steals from you, then naming it is not betrayal. It is survival. When I finished, there was a beat of silence so long it felt endless. Then one person stood and clapped, then another. Then the entire ballroom stood. I had spent years being told nobody would believe me. Now 800 people were on their feet. The investigation moved fast after that. Once the evidence was public and formal subpoenas widened the trail, everything collapsed for them. Federal charges were filed. My father pleaded guilty to multiple counts and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Tyler pleaded guilty too and got 4 years. The fraudulent loans were removed from my record by court order. My credit score recovered. Restitution was paid from seized assets and frozen funds. My mother was not charged. There was not enough proof she knew about the original loans. She later filed for divorce and issued a public apology through her attorney. I read it once and felt almost nothing. That scared me at first. I thought maybe numbness meant I had become cold. But that was not it. It was closure. There is a point after deep betrayal where pain burns through itself and leaves quiet behind. Not peace exactly, just quiet. I got promoted later that year and began helping investigate family fraud cases for other victims. Young people with destroyed credit, stolen names, wrecked futures. The first time I told someone I believe you and watched them break down crying, I understood something I had been too angry to see before. The real opposite of betrayal is not revenge. It is protection. I moved into a safe apartment, started therapy, reconnected with people I had pushed away, began teaching financial literacy workshops. I met young adults carrying debt they never agreed to, credit cards opened by parents, utility bills in their names, cars financed through fraud, stories so similar to mine it made my chest hurt. And every time I told them the same thing, you are not crazy, you are not disloyal, you are not the one breaking the family. The break happened the moment they decided your future was theirs to spend. Today I am 26. I have a career, I have savings, I sleep through the night. I can check my bank account without panic. I can look at my diploma without hearing my father's voice over it. But the part people do not always understand is this. Justice did not erase the damage, it honored it. It said what happened was real. It said the years mattered. It said my pain was not exaggeration or weakness or bitterness. That is why the ending of this story is not my father going to prison. It is me no longer building my life around whether he ever loved me. That was the prison, and I finally walked out. People ask me if it was worth it. Losing my family, going public. Standing on that stage, exposing everything. Here is the truth. I did not lose my family. They lost access to me. They lost the right to define me. They lost the version of me that kept begging to be chosen. And I gained something bigger than revenge. I gained my own name back. So if you are listening to this while sitting in a room where no one believes you, if you are carrying debt you never took, if you are watching your life stall while the people hurting you call themselves your family, hear me carefully. Check your credit report, pull every document, save every email, write down every date. Trust what the evidence is trying to tell you, even when your heart is begging for a kinder explanation, because the truth will feel unbearable for a little while. But confusion lasts forever if you keep feeding it, and if the people hurting you share your blood, that does not make the harm smaller. It makes the truth more urgent. My father once told me girls like me never make it. What he meant was girls like me are supposed to stay broken long enough to stay controllable. He was wrong. I made it, not because someone saved me. Not because life got fair. I made it because I stopped asking permission to believe what was happening to me. And if you need this story tonight, then let it be proof of something. You can be sabotaged and still rise. You can be disbelieved and still be telling the truth. You can come from people who tried to bury you and still become someone they can never reach again. If this story stayed with you until the end, then do not leave quietly. Press like right now so more people who need this can find it. Subscribe because stories like this matter, and because the next one might be the one somebody needs in order to finally protect themselves. And in the comments, I want you to tell me 2 things. Where you are watching from, and 1 word that describes what you felt at the end of this story. I read the comments. I look for the people who think nobody sees them. I want them to know somebody does. My name is Gracie Hale. They stole my name. They stole my future. They stole years of my life, but in the end they did not keep me. And if you are still fighting for your own name back, do not stop now.